Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2021 Charles Schwab Challenge. Now, before I actually get in the video, I want to remind you guys there are timestamps in the description below. Those timestamps can also be found in YouTube's progress bar. All you have to do is hover over the progress bar, you'll find timestamps, and skip to whatever section you find interesting or important. But a quick overview or summary of what I'll be covering. Basically, we'll be talking about Time Pairings. That's my way of figuring out, are there groups better suited for scoring in this field? We'll look at grass stats. The greens here are bent grass, so we'll be looking at bent grass stats, who are the best golfers and who have the best top 10 success rate on bent grass golf courses. Then from there, we're going to be going into the buckets. I'll do a quick review over the bucket system. If you haven't yet, I highly encourage you guys to go watch the preview video that I put out because we talk about the buckets in detail there. I'll do a quick summary here and then try to develop my anchor buckets as well as my anchor plays for this tournament. So again, timestamps are either in the description or the progress bar, wherever you want to look. Go ahead and skip to whatever you'd like, but let's go ahead and get into this. The very first thing I'm going to bring up, we're going to look at the SweetSpot score. Now, it is my kind of blend of it's my model, basically. I include the stats that you see on the screen. We look at official world golf ranking, all of the grass stats, well, not all of them, the overall average dating back to 2013, the success rate basically inside the top 10. Then I look at course history, bogey avoidance, birdie or better, and then I will look at DK average, recent form average, and scoring average, all within recent form, which is the last 8 weeks technically. And then I look at season-long DK average as well as season-long scoring average. I create my own formula to create points for this, and it leads to a total score. Now, all the way over on the left side here, this total score becomes a rank. So whatever the highest score is, you can see Jordan Spieth is my number 1 ranked golfer. What I was saying is the higher the score, the lower the rank. So you can see in order who are my highest or my best ranked golfers in this field. And I really only like to talk about the top 20 and try to find some kind of disparities. I think that's the word I want to use. Try to figure out, are there any low price guys that are beating out some of the higher price guys just from my model? So let's go ahead and take a look. Jordan Spieth, number 1, JT 2, and Collin Morikawa 3. When you are 10K and above, you should be, the highest ranked golfers in the field. And if you aren't, Daniel Berger and Patrick Reed, there's some question behind that. As you can see, Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris, Joaquin Niemann, and Justin Rose, who's in the 8K, are ranked better than Daniel Berger and Patrick Reed. Am I telling you should play these guys ahead of, the Rose, these guys in the 9K ahead of Berger and Reed? Yes, I am. But I play percentages. I don't make like hard cuts. So for me, I will be playing Patrick Reed. I actually really do like him. He's in a group that I think is going to be really good for scoring. So I'm not going to fade Patrick Reed completely because some guys in the 9 or 8K range are better than him, but I will rank these guys a little bit better. I will play these guys a little bit more than I will Patrick Reed. But of course, it all comes down to lineup construction. And with the bucket system, the beautiful thing is, it might be a decision between Tony Finau and Patrick Reed. The buckets might make me decide between the two. And again, I play the percentages, so maybe I play 30% Finau, 30% Reed. That's just how it might shake out. It might just be those two guys I have to choose from and then be 50-50. But we'll see what the buckets pour out. But anyways, going forward, or after that, we have Corey Connors, Scotty Scheffler, Charlie Hoffman, a couple other guys in the 8K range, Jason Kokrak, and Sungjae Im, which is really interesting because usually Sungjae is higher ranked than this. And in a lot of the tournaments that I've done in the past, he ranks within the top 10 a lot. So surprising at this tournament to see him down there. One thing that I forgot to mention during the PGA Championship, I'm starting to keep track of the strength of field. So the strength of field, how I've calculated based off of OWGR and FedEx, similar to what OWGR.com does. I don't know what the final equation is that he does or they do over there, but I was close last week. I think I was off by a couple points, just a couple points, like within 10. I'm guessing I'm going to be within 10 for this strength of field here. I have 441. Last week it was over 900. The week before that was in the high twos. I think it was 298. So we actually have a higher strength of field at this event. So, I mean, I would definitely consider playing some of these higher priced guys, primarily because I feel like when the strength of field is a little bit more difficult, the cream rises to the top. But obviously the PGA Championship, if you were with me during the review, we saw a bunch of 6K golfers inside the top 10. So maybe it flips. Maybe the harder it gets, the more volatility there is, if that makes sense. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But it's worth... Stay with me during the review videos. I will go over that, and that's where I want to, see that kind of stuff. But anyways, your top 20 is rounded out by Brandt Snedeker, who is $7,900. So you see the top 20 there. I use this score basically to highlight the different colors here. So if they're in a group that has a bunch of better scoring golfers, and the overall score of the three golfers in that group, the overall sweet spot rank is under 100, like collectively, they get this dark green. So you can see some of these golfers before we actually get into the tee time pairings, which ones you might or maybe you should, anchor your lineups around. So, Spieth, Thomas, Morikawa, obviously you really can't go wrong there. Neiman, Rose, Berger, Reed, Connors, and Horschel. Of my top guys here, it seems as if they are in good groups. All right, let's go ahead and get into the tee time pairings. So I'm just obviously sorting by game. Our first two games out are twosomes, primarily because there's an odd number. It's 121 in this field. Usually you divide by 3 to get your groups of 3. Well, 121 does not divide into 3 evenly. So you have to figure it out to get to that prime of 3, basically. So you then further down you can make those lineups. So long story short, we have 2 groups of 2 and then a bunch of groups of 3. And it's interesting, I highlighted these first 2 golfers because Anirban Lahiri has a scoring average that's better than field average, and Lucas Glover has both scoring average and DK average. I forgot to mention that. That's how these are colored. Dark green means both scoring average and DK average better than field average. Yellow is scoring average is better than field average. And this light green is DK average. Season-long DK average is better than field average. So, and again, I should say both of those stats are season-long. So this goes back to the beginning of the actual PGA Tour season, which is in September or something like that. But yeah, the first 2 groups are highlighted. Lucas Glover and Anirban Lahiri. I don't mind Lucas Glover, honestly, and I really don't mind Anirban Lahiri if you want a risky play that's in the 6K range. I think it's a decent play. Before I go further on with this, I almost thought of scrapping this idea because I rarely, bring it back in the review video. I'm talking about so many things, analyzing the bucket system, how well it did, that kind of stuff, where the review videos are already getting so long. I thought, well, do I actually see golfers inside the top 10 a lot that are paired together? And I only went a tournament back, so I went to the PGA Championship. That's what I have on the screen right now. You can already see the results here. If I go and I highlight just by color, and I go to that dark green, the darker green, look at how many top 10s there are. So your first group, which is Brooks, Rory, Justin Thomas, obviously we have one top 10 there. When we look at the next group, which is Collin Morikawa, Hideki Matsuyama, and Bryson DeChambeau, we have another top 10 there. I mean, Hideki is actually, he was in the GP or the Millie Maker winning lineup. So we already have 2 golfers we've selected. The third group has another golfer in it that's inside the top 10, Abraham Answer. I was going to say Anirban once again. The next one after that is Tony Finau, and we have 1 top 10, but a top 20, not terrible with Corey Connors. You can see each one of these groups has a top 10 finish in it. So I think going forward, I'm going to pay more attention to it and actually talk about those groups and anchor my lineups around those guys. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. So let's go ahead and get back to the Charles Schwab challenge. Let me move this over. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I did highlight some groups that aren't really that great, but still have all 3 stats better than field average, and I'll talk about that. You can see it's a lighter green color. We'll still talk about it, but perhaps we should probably avoid that. So our first group in the morning, and it's kind of lopsided, by the way. I think there are 6 groups in the morning, 4 groups in the afternoon I'm going to be talking about. So there's more in the morning that have a little bit more firepower. And the first group is Corey Connors, once again from PGA Championship, Matt Jones, Patton Kizzire. All of them equal 85 for a total rank. I don't mind starting a lineup here. You can either start in the 9. If you want to own the 9K golfer, Corey Connors, not a bad choice. Otherwise, 2 7K golfers, Matt Jones and Patton Kizzire. And I have no issue with rostering any of these guys. So I will definitely be thinking about anchor plays once we get into the anchor buckets between these 3 golfers. Moving on from there, our next group is Joaquin Niemann, Justin Rose, and Patrick Reed. Now, they collectively might be the best group in the field. I think there's actually one better than them that has, let's see, that equals 23. I almost thought it was this one, but this one equals 34. Let me double check really quickly. Okay, this one equals 19. I think that one beats it out, right? Yeah, so it beats it out by 4 points. So the group of JT, Morikawa, and Horschel, slightly better than the group of Niemann, Rose, and Reed. But I like this group a lot. And obviously the thumbnail is Joaquin Niemann and Patrick Reed. I chose this group because this is a group I'm going to be hammering quite a bit. I also don't mind Justin Rose. Now, Justin Rose is kind of on the blacklist for me. And for you guys that don't understand what a blacklist is, especially in DFS circles, you never roster the guy again until he proves his worth. But I play the percentages, so I will own some of him. It might not be, it could be 4%, it could be 2%. I usually create 100 lineups a week, so yeah, 2%, 2 lineups. That's not terrible. Maybe I just put him in one good lineup, put in a higher entry fee, and just say, hey, if you burn me again, then you are gone for good. We'll see. I'm probably not going to do that because I hate wasting money that way. Maybe I just put them in a winner-take-all, one of those quarter-game winner-take-alls. But anyways, Reed and Niemann, I'm really liking how they are setting up. They both hit slinging draws, so they're going to be seeing the same type of shot shape. I do believe they've played together, and I don't have their results. I can't remember where it was. It was earlier in the year. I think around the Players' Championship, either just before it or just after. They were in a group together. So it'd be interesting. If you guys have that information, I want to know how they did. I unfortunately can't give that information right now. I'd have to go digging. I didn't do it prior to, so I don't know. I'm interested, though. Moving on, Sung J M, Brendan Todd, Pat Perez. Now, collectively, their score is over 100, so they get this light green color. I don't mind playing anyone in this group either. Like, I like Todd, I like Perez, and Im, obviously, you can't. I'd say you can't go wrong with Im, but you can. $9,100, I feel like he's just a top 20 machine, which means he can get inside the top 10, no problem. I'm not putting a lot of investment in on him, but I do like him. Let's just put it that way. Our next group after that is Spieth, Berger, and Mickelson. Everyone's been talking about Mickelson. Why is he still signed up for this tournament? Why is he playing? He just won the PGA Championship. It seemed like it was a daunting task. How does he have the energy for this tournament? I wonder if it's because of sponsor obligations, or just paying his respect, being a respectful golfer. Obviously we all hate the fact that someone just drops out of a tournament for whatever reason. Maybe Mickelson also is one of those types that just does not like when people pull out of tournaments. And since he made a commitment to play, he's going to stick to it. And if that's the case, I applaud him for it. I don't know what's in store for him. If, he's 50 years old. A lot of times we think, hey, this guy's on a heater. Like, keep playing him. Keep doing that. major championship, maybe it wasn't that difficult for him. Maybe he's not that exhausted. I mean, he was tweeting all night after he won the PGA championship. So, maybe he still has a ton of energy. Maybe that coffee's doing him well. I don't know, but I am more on the cautious side. I won't be playing that much Phil, but FOMO's going to get in the way. I'm going to own at least 5%. If I create 100 lineups, he's going to be in 5. Spieth, I like. Berger, I don't. I don't care for Berger. And that might be, my downfall. This might be a track that's just so suited for him, really well suited for him, that this is a tournament you should play him for. I don't know. I know a lot of people have been talking about that. This is, Berger's finally at a track where he's going to do well. I'm not that big of a fan of Berger's game. I haven't watched a lot of it, but the things that I have seen, I feel like he's overrated for how much the industry loves him. Just my take. He is a 10K golfer. I think everybody else that's in the 10K range is better than him, a better option. I still will play some of him, but it won't be a lot. So I do like Spieth. Spieth would probably be my number one choice in that group. But again, if we're looking at that PGA Championship logic where everybody that was highlighted in this green color finished inside the top 10, there you go. There's your choice of 3 golfers. I personally pick Spieth, but whatever you guys want to do, go for it. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. Scrolling down, we have a couple groups here that's in that light green color, including Will Zalatoris, Cameron Davis, Peter Malnati. I like these guys. Maybe not so much Malnati, and you can see he only is better than the field average and scoring average, while the other two do have DK average and scoring average better than field average. So if you needed a reason to play Cameron Davis, here you go. I know some people were talking about him in the industry, weren't sure what to do. He's crooked off the tee. I feel like that's such bad analysis that he's just crooked off the tee. Do we have particular instances that we can recall off the top of our head that he was behind a tree or in the trees, or his driving accuracy is that bad? Or are we only giving him that narrative because he's a bomber? He hits the ball far. Is he really that inaccurate? Here, let's take a look. I have driving accuracy up, I believe. So 53%, yeah, not great. 77% when it comes to his good drive percentage. And obviously we're looking at these two columns. He would probably be in the lower half. So sure. I can give credit to anyone that wants to think that. But his birdie or better percentage, he's in, top of the field. He's in a green color. Green is usually your top 30%, top 40%, or top 20%. Yellow is more in the middle. That's 50%. So yeah, he's good there. He's obviously one of the deeper drivers. And yeah, he's a little crooked. Anyways, I like Davis. If he can get the driver straight, he can be dangerous. Going to the next group, we have Tringali. Well, hold on. Will Zalatoris, there's really nothing to be said. The guy's solid. I hope he gets a win. He is a Texas native. His home state is Texas. This is a Texas tournament. Maybe this is where he gets it done. We always talk about these Texas golfers playing in these Texas events, and usually they falter. I feel like there's got to be one of the tournaments they do well in. Obviously, Ryan Palmer is a member of this of this country club. He usually doesn't play well here, but that's not every year. And when he does play poorly here, he usually plays better in one of the other Texas events. So I don't know. Will Zalatoris really hasn't had that much success in any of the other Texas events. Scaring a win, being close to a win or a top 5. Maybe this is the week. Anyways, let's move on. Cameron Tringali, Luke List, Chase Seifert are in the next groups. I don't care for any of these guys, really. Cameron Tringali had a blow-up hole, or had a blow-up 4 holes during the PGA Championship, where some of you guys might be a little off of him. Golfers have these things. It could have just been a bad hole or a bad moment. This obviously can stay with him, but it's easily shakeable too. It's a major championship. They're treated a little differently. Good reason to get back on Cameron Tringali? Sure. It looks like he's in a decent group. I'll play these guys sparingly. Not huge, in my opinion. And then the first group, I was going to say the last group in the morning wave, but now we're to the afternoon wave. The very first group, Matt Wallace, Adam Schenk, James Hahn, are golfers, either better than field average at DK, scoring, or both. James Hahn has both. I don't care for this group. A lot of people talking about Matt Wallace. I believe he had a top 20 finish last week, right? Oh, did he drop? He dropped to 55th? Okay. That's surprising. I think he was in the top 10 for a little while. Wallace and James Hahn are strokes gained bucket ones, meaning all of their strokes gained stats are positive. All their season-long strokes gained stats are positive. So I obviously do like to dig for those types of golfers or try to play those golfers as much as I can. I don't mind either of them. I'm just not as bullish as some of the other people in the industry. And it seems like a decent group, but again, they're this light green color. Their score's over 100. Can't guarantee you top 10 or top 20. Moving on, we have the group of Brian Harman, Doc Redman, and Mark Hubbard. I think it's a good bounce back spot for Harman. And Redman's been playing pretty decent as of late. Mark Hubbard, last year during this time, he was leading the PGA Tour. So obviously this was the beginning of the restart, the Charles Schwab Classic or Challenge, Charles Schwab Challenge. This was the beginning of the restart from the COVID suspension. From that moment all the way to the playoffs, Mark Hubbard had the most rounds in the 60s. I think he had a streak also of, I think each event that he played, he was in the 60s for X amount of rounds. I can't remember what it was. So maybe this is a good spot for Mark Hubbard to come back and kind of round into form. But he's been pretty god-awful as of late. Like this, after the calendar season, after the playoffs actually, this whole PGA Tour season, he just hasn't been playing that great. So maybe this is a good bounce back spot for him. And maybe he'll be playing better going on. It could be just this time of the year. The golf courses coming up for him. If that's the case, hey, this would not be a bad place to play Hubbard. All three of them, I like them. Not going to have a huge exposure to them, but they're all decent. Moving on from there, we have Abram Answer, Sebastian Munoz, and Andrew Putnam. Answer I like quite a bit. I know a lot of other people in the industry do like Abram Answer this week. He did have a top 10 finish last week, I believe. Top 20, sorry. He was 14th place. Sebastian Munoz, very talented golfer. Andrew Putnam, haven't really seen anything from him lately, but he is a decent putter. And really, if a group is playing well, I think they feed off one of two things. Close approach shots or just made putts. If the group is making putts, obviously that's contagious. If you continue to see it, the hole just gets bigger. Sometimes it gets more frustrating because you're not making them and the other guys are. So it can work both ways, but maybe that's a reason why we play Andrew Putnam or any of the other guys here. I do like them. So Sebastian Munoz can get super low. I think what is his lowest round this year? Oh, it's only 66. Interesting. Oh, that's recent form average. 64 is his low round. Not the lowest, but he can get low. So I have no problem playing him, especially, during showdown slates. I think that's okay. Going down from there, we get to the best group of the week. Billy Horschel, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas. Is there really anything we need to say about these guys? They're all in good strokes gained buckets, and the rest of the buckets are okay. We'll talk more about that when we get into it. But these are high quality players. Billy Horschel, $8,800. You can make the argument that might be a little too high, but maybe it's actually a really good spot to play him, especially when he's paired up with these two high quality golfers. He's super competitive. So is Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas just missed the cut, so he's got something to prove. The other guys, I think, made the cut, right? Horschel and Morikawa made the cut. Morikawa finished 8th, and Horschel finished 23rd. So I like the group as a whole, and I think it's actually another good spot to anchor your lineups around. So any three of these guys, I wouldn't pick to have two on a team. But yeah, if you wanted to spread out your ownership and go 30-30-30, I think that would be a decent play. Scrolling, we are out of groups. Like I said, the afternoon group had less than the morning group. So when we look at this, if we were to go ahead and filter by color, We're going to go by this darker green, and our pool is actually pretty small. We have 12 golfers. And of these 12 golfers, obviously split them into threes, so we have 4 groups of 3. What's wonderful, I went over this yesterday, and I went over permutations yesterday, which is kind of funny. We need to pick 4 spots, right? And I learned permutations because I wanted you to see the difference between, getting all your lineups to 49,000, the difference between that and leaving money on the table, like too much money. We don't want to be chasing optimal lineups at 47,000. Let's put it that way. Because if you try doing that, you're opening up the amount of combinations of lineups that you can build by 95 billion. So you don't want that. Just keep it close to 50. Same thing applies here. So we know we want to pick 3 golfers from each of these for 4 spots, right? So basically what we would be doing, the amount of golfers you can select. So we're selecting 1 of each. So I mean it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. You have 81 different combinations you can make with the golfers that we have here. So if you're making 100 lineups and this is your core of golfers, and you want 4 of them from these guys, as long as the price works out, obviously, this group here has 2 guys 10K. This group here has 2 guys that are 10K. It's pretty expensive. I don't think we can really get there that easily, especially if we were to start something like Justin Thomas. How about we do this? I do have my lineup page up, so let's start with JT. That leaves us with $7,800 left. I think the only sensible way we can go is the cheapest price for everybody in the remaining groups. So we got that one. I'm seeing, we can make a lineup. We can either go Kazire or Matt Jones. Let's go ahead and put Matt Jones. If we did that, we'd have $6,900 left to play with. That's not terrible. Really, it isn't terrible. So you could go that route, and that would be fine. But perhaps the best way to do is kind of go Billy Horschel. I'm not going to go Phil. I don't trust Phil. So, I mean, I have to go with Jordan Spieth. And I'm probably going to do the same thing going with the other 2 golfers we see here. That would make more sense to me, but that only leaves you with $6,600. So here's the fun thing. Although the bucket system can accurately depict or predict, I should say, the top 10, this same thing happens a lot with the bucket system. We might have, Corey Connors might finish top 10. Patrick Reed might finish top 10. Jordan Spieth might finish top 10. And JT might finish top 10. We have an 11K golfer, 11-2, 10-3, and 9-4. You can't put those guys together. So I will caution you guys, don't try and make all your lineups like this. It might be fun just to do a handful of them. Pick your favorite anchor golfers from this group of golfers. But perhaps we just don't do that. Maybe it gets you on, it solidifies who you were going to anchor around anyways. That's fine. Maybe you can find a duo to, create lineups around. Maybe Corey Connors and Patrick Reed, or even Corey Connors, Jordan Spieth, or however you want to do it. Maybe this is a good way to do it. If there were some lower price guys, it would work out decent. Let's see what with the PGA Championship. How did that work out? So Brooks 95, 98, 79, 86, 10, 5, 8, 8. Yeah. So you're not making lineups out of these guys either. You can select maybe 3 of them, but you're not going to select 4 or more. So yeah, let's go ahead and use that, put that in our heads. Let's be logical about it. If that did get you on certain guys, great. Hopefully it works out for you. Hopefully it works out for me, because that's how I'm going to be starting some of my lineups too. I really like Patrick Reed, Joaquin Niemann, Jordan Spieth, JT. I like a lot of the guys that I was just showing you. So that's a way. And that's going to conclude our tee time pairings. Let's go ahead and talk about grass stats. I'm going to go ahead and hide. Let's hide this column once again. go over grass stats, and really all I want to show you, I have grass, should be bent grass. For those that don't know, a quick replacement, you know, hit Control plus H. I was going to say H as in Hector, but that might be even more confusing. H as in horse. And then obviously switch grass out with whatever you want to call it. We're going to go with bent. So there we go. It makes a change for all of those in there. Just makes it easier. Let's go ahead and get rid of the number 1. So all we got to do is just go space, number 1, and then don't put anything in with replace. There we go. Perfect. Okay. We'll sort by overall bent, and here you go. Your number 1 golfer in the field, Will Zalatoris on bent grass golf courses, followed by Rose. And actually what I'll do is you guys can read the guys here. This is your top 20 of bent grass golfers. Number 20 is Byung-Hun An. So maybe a reason to play Mr. Benny An, but here are your top 20. Nothing really stands out to me that's out of the ordinary. It makes me like Will Zalatoris more, but there's also Justin Rose. I like Justin Rose a lot. Tony Finau. You can't go wrong with some of these guys. Obviously, we already talked about Colin Morikawa. We talked about Thomas, Spieth. You can see all of the green colors over here. So we kind of narrowed down from those 12 golfers to these 7 golfers. I mean, it just, again, Joaquin Niemann, Patrick Reed, good places to start your lineups, but no issues with Colin Morikawa or any of these guys. Another way to look at this is looking at the success rate of finishing inside the top 10. Michael Visacki, you can go down. Don't play him, by the way. Great story, but unless you just like giving DraftKings your money, don't play him, because it's not going to go to Michael Visacki. Anyways, you could look at it this way. The highest success rate on bent grass golf courses, Justin Rose and Jordan Spieth, both at a 40% clip of finishing inside the top 10. We already talked about those guys, just more reasons to play them. So I think we can already say some of our anchor golfers, I mean, we already know our anchor golfers are here. So Rose, Spieth, JT, there's Berger, Morikawa, Connors, Patrick Reed, and Niemann. So let's go ahead. I'm going to throw them actually over. I'm going to put them over here. I don't want to put them in here just yet, but I'm going to put them over to the side. So those, what were the 7 golfers? No problem there. The other way I like looking at this is I don't select anybody who's 0% or worse. So, or not 0%, under 5%. Are there any golfers that kind of, step out and say, hey, we're decent? Well, here you go. A couple weeks ago, Doug Ghim found himself on bent grass greens. Now, the Players Championship had bent grass greens. He was playing well until the last round of golf. That actually catapulted him outside the top 10. I think he was leading that tournament for a while. So he had the ability to show up there. But you can see he's not good on bent grass. He just hasn't proven to be good on bent grass. He's had 10 events to prove himself. Not good. You know what Doug Ghim's good on? POA. You want to know why he's good on POA? Because he is from Nevada. His home state's Nevada. I thought it was California. So never mind. I was going to say it's because he's from California, but he's not. But he's good on POA. He hasn't shown himself to be good on bent grass. He hasn't shown himself to be good on Bermuda grass. I don't trust Doug Ghim. I wouldn't play Doug Ghim. Maybe a lineup. That's it. But yeah, I'm not going to waste my time. The other surprise is Camilo Villegas. He's played 44 events and has finished top 10 absolutely 0 times. Since 2013, by the way. This goes back to 2013. So anyone that wants to fact check me, go back to 2013. 0%. And then Harry Higgs, right up there. He's only had 15 events, so not a lot, but he's had 0% inside the top 10. And even this year, he doesn't look like he's doing that great. So Harry Higgs and Camilo Villegas, a lot of people talking about him. And actually, I didn't even see this, but right below Cam Davis and Sepp Straka, but Cam Davis mostly. That's who I was just talking about. More reasons not to play Cam Davis. I'm okay if Cam Davis burns me and finishes inside the top 10. He will then change to a golfer I will play on bent grass golf courses, but for the time being, he's not going to get more than 1% of my ownership. And how I would do this, I know I didn't give away the optimizer this week, but I would be putting in this number for maximum ownership. I would not be playing any of these guys that at least no more than 1%, but it's mostly going to be 0%. Then we have a bunch of 6K golfers, nothing really to talk about, especially with these 0% top 10 bent golfers. But we kind of come down to like Patrick Rogers, very talented guy. Obviously, you can see not very good on bent grass, so probably a fade there. Now, 4%, super close. You know, if we're thinking about playing Norlander or Michael Thompson, you know, not a terrible play, but, you know, you're running your risk. Same with Denny McCarthy. That was another golfer I heard a lot in the industry this week. But yeah, I'm going 5% or more. That's who I will be targeting. You know, I think the last time non-major event, we had 2 golfers that were in the 0% or under 5% finish inside the top 10. So don't feel afraid to play any of those guys. I just wouldn't anchor my lineups around them. So yeah, that would be your bent grass stats. We can look at 2020 bent. It does matter sometimes. Your top guys this year, Justin Thomas, Will Zalatoris, Patrick Reed, Connors, Neiman. There you go. All the golfers we were kind of talking about earlier. So more reasons to play those guys. Okay, from here, we're going to go into kind of a summary of the bucket system. And let me go ahead and get rid of this. We will be talking about that shortly. But what we found out, you know, some of the buckets, the buckets tell a story as do last year results matter? Do last week results matter? How about course history, recent form? What type of golfers do we want to roster? You know, too often in this industry, we are told, oh, this is a course history type of course. You want to grab all the best golfers with course history, or you want to grab all the best golfers with recent form, you know, golfers that have good form coming into this tournament. This is my way to show you that, you know, maybe you shouldn't worry about certain performances. So let me give you the top 3 buckets for each one. Starting with last year, this is obviously looking at last year's results. And your number 1 bucket are golfers who did not play last year. It's primarily because it's a volume-driven bucket. And this week, we actually see less than we see on average. So although it's your number 1 bucket, it's not as iron strong or whatever you want to call it to choose from, but it's still projecting around 2 golfers we're going to see inside the top 10 this time around. The number 2 bucket for last year are golfers who top 20'd in last year's tournament. We usually see 19 on average. We have 19 in the field. And again, we're projecting around 2. And we've seen at least 1 every single year. That's the other thing I should have said with that did not play bucket. We've seen 2 every single year. From there, the number 3 bucket are golfers who actually missed the cut. Do not be afraid of rostering golfers who missed the cut in last year's tournament. We're projecting nearly 4 finishing inside the top 10. I would probably err more on 3 or maybe even 2. But I think, you know, if you're worried about grabbing a guy who's missed the cut and who has bad recent form, or not recent form, well, yeah, you could go recent form, but I was thinking more course history. Don't worry about it because there's a bucket you want to choose from. So do with that as you will. Moving on to our last week buckets. Now, obviously, this is looking at the PGA Championship last week, but, you know, when we analyze top 10s every single year, it's not always the PGA Championship. In fact, only 1 year was it the PGA Championship prior to this event. But I treat a lot of the tournaments kind of the same because it's all about your results. You know, as golfers ourselves, we remember what we did last week. We remember what we did yesterday on the golf course. We're bringing either that good mojo into this tournament, or we obviously had things to work on. Perhaps some guys ironed those out. So anyways, your number 1 bucket are actually golfers who did not play the week before. We have 58 of those golfers in the field this week. On average, we see around 53. So it's right on par we're projecting around 5 golfers out of this bucket finishing inside the top 10. So go ahead. I would definitely, choose golfers. And we actually kind of have a repeat. Actually, we do have a repeat. Number 2 bucket for last week are golfers who top 20. We usually see 13 on average. We have 13 in the field this week. And your number 3 bucket, golfers who missed the cut last week. So Justin Thomas, if you're worried about Justin Thomas, don't be. A missed cut is actually kind of a blessing. We've seen at least 1 golfer every single year finish inside the top 10. We have 24 in the field. On average, we see around 31, so we're slightly less than that. But again, we're projecting 1.6. We see at least 1 every single year. And likewise, the did not play buckets, we see at least 2 every single year. Moving on to our course history buckets. Now, course history, again, goes back to 2013. So I'm looking at average finishing position back to 2013. Your number 1 bucket, golfers who are in that 20 to 40 range. So it's still good course history, but not the greatest course history. On average, we see 22. We have 24 in the field. So right on par, 14% success rate finishing inside the top 10. We're projecting around 3.4. Again, I would go with 3. And every single year, we've seen at least 1 dating back to 2015. If you look just ahead above that, course history bucket 5 is that 1 to 20 range. And we also see at least 1 every single year. We do have less in the tournament this week than we do on average. And the success rate is not the best out of this bucket, but it's pretty high, 12.5%. We're just not projecting, 1 or more. And that's kind of a worry about mine. But going to our number 2 bucket, actually golfers who have no course history whatsoever. That's the number 2 bucket. Will Zalatoris, we talked about this yesterday. He was the number 1 golfer for salary in that bucket. And I mean, I think it's like he's just a slam dunk. Like, I do like Will Zalatoris. He's going to be an anchor play, just giving you an answer into the future. But yeah, we see, I should say this. We see on average 30 every single year. We have 15 in the field, 7.65% success rate. It's not very good, but we're still projecting 1. Now, I would want this to be around 2 for me to feel a bit more comfortable to say, hey, we will see 1, but I think Will Zalatoris is going to get it done. And I mean, a lot of times you just have to look at the talent inside those buckets. And I do like Zalatoris this week. Course history number 3 would be that 40 to 60 range. On average, we see 29. We see 32 this week. 8.19% success rate. That gives us a projected amount of 2, and we've seen at least 1 every single year. So I think that's a pretty slam dunk bucket to choose from, as is your course history 1 bucket. Course history 2 is questionable, but I do like it because Will Zalatoris is in it. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. And then recent form bucket, your number 1 is that 40 to 60 range. So these are golfers with middling averages. And recent form goes back the last 8 weeks. It really goes back the last 7 tournaments, but it goes back the last 8 weeks. And this bucket has seen at least 4 golfers inside the top 10 every single year. And recent form buckets go back to 2014. So 4 is a huge number. We usually see 48 average per year. We have 41 in the field this year. So a little bit less, but we're still projecting almost 5 golfers inside the top 10. So I think this 4 number is pretty safe. Our reason for bucket 2 is actually the step above. So 20 to 40, which isn't the greatest recent form, but it is pretty darn close to being the elite recent form of the field. We see on average 16 per year. We have 18, so it's above, which is good. 18% success rate, that's huge. We're projecting 3, and we see at least 1 every single year. So I think this is a slam dunk bucket to choose from. We'll go ahead and select that as one of our anchor buckets. And then recent form bucket 3 is that 60 to 80 range. So actually getting worse with the recent form. That's our 3rd bucket. And I think a lot of it has to do with it being kind of a volume bucket. We see 41 on average, 36 in the field this week. 6% success rate leaves us with 2 as a projected amount, and we've seen at least 1 every single year. Because we've seen at least one and it's projected 2, I feel pretty safe about this bucket as well. But there is one more bucket to talk about, and that's your recent form bucket 4s. That success rate is the highest I've ever seen at any tournament. We have 6 in the field this week. We see on average 4. So it's kind of telling you like, yeah, we are most likely going to see golfers in this bucket finish inside the top 10. This is also going to be another anchor bucket. We're projecting 2.3. So around 2. And we've seen up to 3, primarily only see around 2, but I think that's a pretty safe one too. And when you see the golfers that are in that bucket, you're gonna understand why. The other buckets down here, kind of self-explanatory, but I'll go over them really quickly. Your number 1 salary bucket, 7K range. Number 2 bucket is actually the 9K range. Third bucket is the 10K range. And we've seen at least 1 in the 10K range inside the top 10, 1 inside, that's 9K, 1 that's 8K, and 3. And this is every single year, but this only goes back to 2018. So I don't have, a lot of data for our salary buckets, but over the last 3 years that we've had DraftKings contests, 3 years, we've seen these salaries inside the top 10. Now, with that being said, we can still fade the 10K golfer unless he finishes top 3. Because if he finishes 7th place, that's not what we're looking for. Especially when a 9K and an 8K golfer do finish inside the top 10. Maybe one of them wins it, or maybe even a 7 or a 6K wins this tournament. That might render that 10K useless, still finishing inside the top 10 and still fulfilling this prophecy, if you want to call it, or prediction. That's more or less, that's what we want to use. It still will, fulfill it, but it won't be in the optimal lineup. So anyways, just keep that in mind. I do like 10K golfers. I have no issue rostering anyone that's in the 10K range, and actually it is one of those things I will be seeking. But yeah, I think, if you want to start 9K, since this is our number 2 bucket, grab 2 golfers from there. And we do have some good 9K golfers. We do also have some good 8K golfers. I don't mind, starting your lineups there. Although I'm usually a proponent of the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 optimal lineup. Again, those are the salaries I'm going through. Strokes gained buckets, these are static. Like, these never change. So all of these do change with the more instances of top 10s that we see in, for this tournament. So 1 year, the 10K bucket might be the 3rd ranked bucket, could be the 2nd ranked bucket next year if more 10K golfers do finish inside the top 10. But just letting you guys know, that's how they're fluid. Most of these buckets are fluid. My strokes gained buckets are static. And that's primarily because of just what they mean. Strokes gained buckets, your number 1 buckets, all stats are positive. All the main 4 stats: off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. Those 4 stats, positive. 2, off the tee is positive, putting is positive. One of the other 2 is negative. And then we go positive off the tee, negative putting for 3, negative off the tee, positive putting for 4, negative off the tee, negative putting for 5, and then 6 is no strokes gained. We rarely ever see any of these golfers inside the top 10. And if we look across, we usually see 10 on average. Look at how many top 20s there are. 0. There's one golfer I think a lot of people are talking about this week that is in this bucket, and that's Sahi Thigala. Don't play him. There's no point to. Do not waste your money. Anyways, that's how I have the strokes gained buckets. And you can see what the success rates are, how frequently we see them, that kind of thing, and make your decision there. So with all that being said, we want to create some anchor buckets. What I'm going to do is the projected amount I want at least over 2. So we're going to go greater than or equal to 2. Go ahead and throw that in there. And that already removes a bunch of buckets. And now we're down to 15 buckets we're going to choose from. From there, I'm going to make it real easy on myself and go less than 25 for this year. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Less than 25. So that leaves us with these 6 buckets, and I'm actually going to leave it at these 6 buckets. I'm not going to go any further from there. I do just want to be able to choose golfers easily, and having under 25 is pretty simple. So we're going to grab golfers from these buckets. Let me go ahead. See, last year 2, last week 2. Let's go ahead and just write those here. Last year 2, last week 2. Then we have course history 1, recent form 4, recent form 2. And what was the last one? A strokes gain bucket? Salary bucket 2. I'm not going to put salary bucket. I don't think that's really worth it. So just these 5 buckets. That's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to do salary buckets. It's totally fine. I'm going to open this back up just so it's clean next time we look at it. But let's go ahead and grab golfers from those buckets. So the very first bucket we're going to look at, what was it again? Last year 2s. So looking at last year 2s, and what does that mean once again? Last year 2s are those that top 20 last year. So we have, let's go ahead and sort this actually by salary. A lot of our good golfers are here. So let's go ahead, copy all of them, put them right here. So when we do our review, we can highlight some of these guys if they finish inside the top 10. It's a little easier to choose from. So we'll open this back up, and we actually do want to choose last week 2s, which I believe are top 20s from last week as well, right? Correct. Little bit smaller of a pool of golfers, and we can already see 2 guys, a couple guys actually, that finished top 20 last week and last year. Pat Reed, Colin Morikawa, Abe Answer, obviously we talked about him. Sungjae Im is one of them, very interesting, and so is Justin Rose. So good reason to play Justin Rose. So we kind of already see a little bit of a crossover there, which is very interesting. And we actually see Corey Connors as well. Almost missed him. So very interesting there. Let's go ahead and look at our course history 1s. This is led by Patrick Reed, Tony Finau, Joaquin Niemann, and Justin Rose. So Rose is there, so is Niemann, so is Patrick Reed. Maybe Patrick Reed, a good reason why we should be playing Patrick Reed. He's in here 3 times. I suppose Niemann's not in here 3 times. I thought for whatever reason he was, but he is not. Tony Finau, we see him twice now. Hoffman, we see twice, as well as Billy Horschel. No. I don't want to confuse myself here, but we see Rose 3 times. So Rose and Patrick Reed are in here 3 times. Maybe we play one of those guys. Now, I said this during the PGA Championship just because we see them, at least 3 times here, obviously. Doesn't mean they're a shoo-in to finish inside the top 10. Just it increases their chances, right? Let's go ahead and look at the other 2. It's recent form 4 and recent form 2. This is very similar to last week. And remember last week the buckets hit. So here we go. Small group. This is what I like to see. Recent form 4. Easy to choose golfers from. And I think it's probably Connors, Answer, or Spieth, right? I think it's those 3. Although Charlie Hoffman now we see in 3 buckets. Unfortunately, we don't see him in 4. That'd be impressive. Snedeker we see a bunch. We just see twice. Okay. And then the last one is recent form bucket 2s. Oh my goodness. What? Oh, that's PGA Championship. Whoops. Recent form bucket 2s. This one's a little bit bigger than the last one, but still pretty manageable to select golfers from. And there we go. We have JT, Morikawa, Reed. Once again, if it's not recent form 4, it's recent form 2. We like Reed. Reed now has shown up inside 4 buckets, which is awesome. We also see Joaquin Niemann in 2 buckets? Yeah, just 2. So never mind. JT we see in 2. That's about it. Rose we see in 3. We see in 4. I'm sorry. So Rose and Reed are your 2 golfers that show up multiple times. And I'm going to go ahead color this black just so I can determine, what we want to talk about versus me using this as lineup building. Remember, we put these golfers over here because they were in good tee time pairings. Rose obviously stands out. as does Patrick Reed. So too does Corey Connors. They show up quite a bit. Corey Connors was in recent form 4. He is not in the course history bucket, unfortunately, but he is in the last week and last year buckets there. So yeah, I think from here, the plays have to be this, right? Recent form 4 and recent form 2 can both hit, but we might not have an optimal lineup with both of those in there, because if Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas finish inside the top 10, more likely you can't roster them together. However, if, say, Corey Connors and Patrick Reed were to, then yeah, we probably can, because they're a little bit cheaper and probably easier to build lineups out of. But I think after I see this now, Corey Connors for sure, Patrick Reed for sure, and Justin Rose for sure. Oh, you guys can't see that. My head's in the way. Let me go ahead and just put that right there. So obviously we see those golfers. Berger is close. Don't get me wrong. We see a lot of these other golfers in there too. Neiman I like, but he's obviously not one of those anchor plays that show up quite a bit. But it is Connors, Reed, and it's Rose. And I will say, out of the recent form 4s, if we recall, recent form 4 had 39% success rate. So I think, even selecting 2 of these guys would not be terrible. And I think if I'm going to do this, I'm owning these guys in 30% of my lineups. Spieth, Answer, and Connors. Like, I'm going all in on this bucket. I have no problem with doing that. Hoffman he's at a cheap enough price where you can mix and match these 3 golfers with Hoffman, but I'll sprinkle in some Snedeker. Obviously, we saw Villegas with 0% Bentgrass results, so we can almost cast them out and just go with these golfers here. So out of 5 golfers, if we anchor our lineups with those golfers right there, that makes lineup building a little bit easier. So that is kind of what I'm aiming for. But Spieth, Answer, and Connors. I mean, I like Connors a lot. I don't mind him. But yeah, those 3 golfers. And I will say this too. There's a chance, again, Spieth does finish inside the top 10, finishes high enough. Well, let's just say he finishes 8th. He might not be in the optimal lineup. You might not even be able to build anyone really close to the optimal lineup using Spieth, although he finishes inside the top 10. And with that, I don't know if these guys are expensive enough. Maybe Spieth finishes 8th, Answer finishes 9th, and neither one of them are in the optimal lineup. But they do finish inside the top 10, which should help you cash some money. I just want to give you the what-if scenarios, because I used to just blindly follow this and be like, yep, have to at least have one of these guys in it, and then get burned because, 2 of these guys did or something like that, and they finished like 9th and 10th and weren't in the optimal lineup, something like that. But anyways, these 3 golfers, like I just mentioned, these are the anchor plays for this year. Hopefully one of them finishes top 10. That would be awesome. It would really definitely prove that the bucket system works. And really logic, deducing that they're in good groups together. Obviously the buckets play well together. And it works out that way. If I were to give you all of the golfers that I like, I would say right here. Oops. I actually don't mind Gary Woodland. I don't mind Kokrak. I don't care for any of these guys down here. Yeah, a lot of these guys I like. Kevin Na showed up yesterday in the preview video. What was it for again? It was pricing and it was where they were in the buckets, right? Let's see, hold on. 2019, was that the year that Na won it? So he was $8,000. Like, who was right next to him? Ryan Palmer, 84. Okay, so what were they? The recent forms, right? That's what it was. Are they going to be right next to each other? So it was Na. No, they're not. How did we get there? Was it the PGA finish? So 29th? I'm trying to find this off the top of my head and I can't. But they were like right next to each other. What was it for? So let's see. Hold on. Nah and Palmer. It wouldn't have been course history. It wouldn't have been last year. It was missed cuts. That's what it was. It was missed cuts. So if I were to go ahead and put this together, missed cuts come down here. We see Nah at 8,000, Palmer at 84. If we look at this year's tournament and we go by PGA Championship, that's right. We were comparing 2019 because that was a PGA Championship week. That was the year or the week before. If we scroll down, Kevin Na 8,400, Ryan Palmer 8,600. Very similar in price. Actually, Na is that 8,400 that Palmer was. Let's see here. So there, I highlighted Palmer and I highlighted Na. They both missed the cut at the PGA Championship, came back and finished inside the top 10 at this tournament. Na was 8,000, Palmer was 8,400. When we look at this year's tournament, for those that missed the cut, we have Palmer 86, Na 84. But if you wanted to go the salary route, if you're that superstitious, you have Brian Harmon, who is 8,000 this week. But it just shows Na is in it twice now. He was, if you use those price points, 8,400 and 8,000 from 2019, and you bring it over here, Na's 8,400. Although it was 8,400 Palmer in 2019, it's 8,400 Na here. But you can look at it either way. Palmer, Na, I don't mind the play. I actually don't mind Harmon. I can't remember, did we see Harmon at all in any of this? Let's just look for Harmon. Oh, I don't want all sheets, just this sheet. Okay, he is in the recent form too. Right below Wallace, right below Rose. So if we keep looking below Rose, do we see Harmon anywhere else? We don't. So just recent form 2, which means that's not a bad sign. That's a good sign. We have Harmon there. We have Na here. Do we have Palmer anywhere? No. Palmer is only in these 2 instances. So Palmer does not show up. So maybe it is a Na week. Maybe it's a Harmon week. They both show up. Not terrible. Let's go ahead and bring in the optimizer to see what the top lineups are. So this is without using any conditionals. I've set the max for all of the buckets. So let's go ahead and run the optimizer and see who we get. I think this is just going to show up again. Maybe not. So Finau, Neiman, Rose. So Rose, boom, shows up. The optimizer likes Rose. It likes Neiman. Rose obviously was our bucket play. And Neiman in a good group. I mean, I should say anchor play. And Neiman was in a good group. If I were to go and save this, run it again, what would be the next group? Because if it has Connors or if it has... Oh, Palmer shows up. Wow. Abe Answer. Look at that. Palmer and Harmon. Interesting. So it did not pick Reed and it did not pick Connors. Which is... It is what it is, I guess. I mean, my system might not be the greatest. But here we go. Reed and Connors. So 3 lineups in. It's choosing different golfers because my ownerships over here are under 30%. So I obviously only created 2 lineups. This is the 3rd one. It's double checking to see if the lineups, can be doable with ownerships I've set. Again, nothing's over 30%. So it's going to give me a 3rd brand new lineup. And the 3rd brand new lineup has Patrick Reed and Corey Connors in it. So let's go ahead, delete those. Recent form 4. Let's say we want at least one of those golfers in. And let's see, recent form 1. I'm just going to keep it there. Let's see what it ends up running for us. I'm guessing it's still going to pick the golfers that we... Oh, it actually picks a whole different one. So Zalatoris, is he in that group? No, it's Charlie Hoffman. So Charlie Hoffman is the #1 golfer it chooses from there. What if we put 1s for all of them? So we want last year 2. Let's make sure we have 1 there. Last week 2, we put 1 there. Course history 1. And recent form 4 and recent form 2. This might not produce the greatest results because, again, it's all about salary. Maybe it doesn't. So it just flipped 2 golfers. It gave me Finau and now Connors to go with Hoffman, Harmon, Kuchar, and Stenson. Just kind of scary. I don't care for Stenson all that much. But that, again, that's me putting in those conditionals. We'll see. I'll go through it and double check. Personally, I think what I'm going to end up doing is kind of like I said, I'm probably going to put like 30% of these, 30% of each of these golfers in, and then probably also do the same thing over here and put 30% here. So hopefully they kind of mix and match well. Obviously Corey Connors is in both, so I don't have to really worry about there. But these other 2 golfers, maybe it works well. I don't know. We'll see. But obviously the optimizer did like Charlie Hoffman. It did go over the golfers that we chose from. So I have to be happy with that. I like that. We'll see how ownerships or how my lineups actually work out by the review video. I'm going to be more selective when I do this. Before, I would just hit this run and save 90 lineups and just let the optimizer do whatever. I'm going to be much more selective, lock in my lineups and see, okay, who's my favorite Jordan Spieth lineup and go from there. So you can see Harmon shows up a bunch. So Harmon might be that guy instead of now. Stenson, though. How is Stenson ranked so high? 6,700 Stenson. Where are you? 691. Is that even true? Did I copy that correctly? 691 for Stenson? Oh, we won't find him there. I mean, that blows my mind. 6,700 Stenson. Stenson, where are you, pal? He is 32 in the model, so never mind. He's ranked 32. That is crazy. Is this where Stenson comes back? I mean, he has a bunch of buckets that are 1s. Strokes gained, not great. Last week bucket, the worst one. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. I'll run some more lineups. I mean, I'm not going to have that much exposure to a Henrik Stenson. I'm probably going to put it somewhere like, it says 9%, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't like Stenson that much. I don't want to play him that much, so maybe I go 4 and just put him in 4%. I'm okay with having 4 lineups of Stenson. Essentially, that's what that means. But yeah, that is going to conclude the video. We went through the anchor plays, anchor buckets. I ran the optimizer a few times for you guys. I guess if we wanted to see a couple more, I'm obviously going to put some Corey Connors together. Corey Connors, Neiman. Here's a pretty decent balanced lineup, but Stenson. Oh, get Stenson out of there. He's probably going to top 10, and I'm going to look like a fool for kind of scoffing at it, like, oh, this is gross. But Kuchar's showing up. A lot of love for Kuchar. Okay, so now it goes to Todd, Grillo. Harmon still comes up, and now Daniel Berger joins the mix. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'm going to leave it there. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and hopefully you guys do well. Make some money this week. Let me have something to talk about in the review video for you guys doing well, and hopefully I do well as well. All right, see you guys later.